So the first person to join us is, rightly so, I would invite the student first, Miss Priska Amponsa. She's a student of a Girls Senior High School. A round of applause. Intergenerational dialogue. I love the sisterhood. That's more like it. Awesome. We have next a youth leader who is in the person of Peter Kwesi Kojie. Let's welcome him with a round of applause. He's the Secretary General of the All Africa Students Union. We have an entrepreneur as well, Dr. Betty Simawa Anan. She is the Country Director, World Cocoa Foundation. So who says women don't know business? Who said that? So women know business, right? In fact, women are the ones managing this economy. Did you know? If all wives decided that they were not performing any duty, do you know that this economy will grind to a halt? If all food vendors decided today they were going on strike, they will not provide any food, do you know that this economy will grind to a halt? So you're powerful. Let no one tell you otherwise. Believe it. We have a government representative as well in the person of Honorable John Kuma, who is a Chief Executive Officer of the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Plan. I'll tell you a story about when they tell you to choose your friends. It will determine your future. Years ago, John Kuma and I were young youth activists. A lot of them are here now, Mauli, working to develop the Ghana Youth Charter and Youth Policy. Today, see where he is. He's a big man. Me, I'm still a struggling journalist. But at least I know he's a phone call away, right? And we're all student leaders as well. So when you're in school, make the best and the most of your time in school. Make the right connections. Some will become lifelong collaborations for greater good. Another round of applause for my friend John Kuma. Next, we have a representative from the academia, very important stakeholder. He is in the person of Professor Nathan Kobina Austin, and he's the Dean of Doctoral and Research Programs at the University of Professional Studies in Accra. A round of applause, sir. Thank you all for joining us. So, I'm going to have to use the first 2 minutes because we've been talking about values a lot this morning. And the thematic areas that global peace is advancing through the work of Accord resonates with the reality of the African continent and the need for us to build inclusive societies, for us to build economies that really thrive and that bridge the inequality gap. And the issue of shared values, because really, if we have shared values across the continent, the incidence of strife and misunderstanding, I suppose, might become minimal. So let me start with the issue of values and ask you in your self-introduction to tell us who you are as a person. What values have shaped your journey so far to make you who you are today and into the future? Ma'am, I'll start with you.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Betty Simawa Anan, and I'm currently the Country Director for the World Cocoa Foundation. I'm actually an Accra, so I give a shout out to the future Accras I see far. Thank you for the opportunity once again. I would say that coming from a background where my parents were into education, they instilled in me the discipline of ensuring that I study very hard. And I remember once I had a 98% in mathematics, and my father asked me, who did you give the 2 to? You could have brought 100 home. And for me, it was really encouraging. I mean, I didn't understand, but over the years, I think it became something that I stood by. And with my studies up to the PhD level, I strived hard to make sure that I studied hard. It wasn't easy. At my PhD level, I was a single mother.
Wow.
And I remember very well, I had to bundle my 6-month-old daughter into a cold room because I had to do an experiment on storage conditions for baby summer squash. And you can imagine, the condition ended up being 5 degrees. But I had to bundle her and put her in there whilst I took my measurements. And for me, I believe that it is about hard work and being studious, no matter the situation you find yourself in. I didn't come from a rich background, but I had to study very hard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hard work and being studious. I hope you're taking note of that. So we're looking at values that can shape your life, that can help you achieve the success that you want. Honorable John Kuma, how about you? What values do you still continue to live by that you can hold true to every day?
Yes, thank you very much. My name is John Kuma. I am a lawyer by profession and currently the CEO of the NEIP for Government of Ghana. I have many shared values, and one of them that has kept me till today is my commitment to community service. And I can tell you, Shamima will attest to that fact, that growing up, I believe I can always make a difference in my community. And whether it is time for studies or time to even eat, if there's something in the community I have to respond to, I'll leave my studies, I'll leave my food and go and attend to. Because I believe whatever affects my brother affects me. So these things, I'm not surprised that I find myself in the public space, because I believe that I have a contribution to make in my community. So that is one key thing that always motivates me to get involved at the community level. And I believe when we all believe we can make a difference, we can make a peace for the globe. And we all have a stake to that global peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Community service, voluntarism. This morning we're told about the volunteers who helped to put this together, who through this sacrifice have acquired a skill that you who hasn't given yourself this opportunity does not have, who has experienced how it is to organize, to go through stress, to understand that hard work yields results. It's a critical input that you need to be aware of. Prof, how about you?
Thank you, and good afternoon, all. I went to St. Augustine's College in Cape Coast.
Right. I went to Holy Child.
And the motto of our institution is hard work overcomes labor. As a young man, that got drummed into me at that school. And from there on, I had promised myself, with the exposure that I had, that everything that I do, I must do it well. And that has always been the foundation of everything I've done, which in a sense encompasses all the other sort of values that positive values that one needs to imbibe. Honesty, integrity, all that in a way gets encapsulated in the idea that whatever you do, you must always do it well and to the benefit of all. And that was what has guided me throughout my life. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing the critical import of integrity. It's all you have. You lose it, you lose everything. And my mom always used to tell me that hard work broke no bones. I'll come to you now, sir. You've been working with students for such a long time. Why? What created that? Why did you want to work with young people? What value shaped that kind of, motive to do that?
All right. Thank you very much. I would start by also wanting to give just a brief background on how a value set has built over a period of time. So I also started my school in Achimota School. And then I went to a technical school because my father insisted. It was more out of instruction other than choice. So I had to do building construction in St. Paul's Technical School. And there we learned what we called Carpe Diem, meaning seize the day. So it meant that every day you had to do something. And so it was instilled in you that at the end of every day, at least achieve something, however small. And it is in the bits and pieces of the small that culminates into something big. And in recent times also, I found another thing that my mother used to share with us. That's in Proverbs, I can't put it, but I do remember that a little slumber, a little more sleep, and poverty will pounce on you like a bandit. Now, I have it on my wall. And so sometimes when I'm working and I feel sleepy and I see it, it just wakes me up, and then I know that you need to finish this work. So I think it's more of trying to do the small things in incremental ways. And cumulatively, you'd see that, it pays off. Now, why we've tried to work with young people, and particularly with students over the time, is that as an organization, you'd realize that the history of not just Ghana, but Africa as a continent was built on the blood of young people. It was built on the intellect of students. And the fact that the history of Africa has been shaped by the intellect of young people means that the future also will be molded by young people. And so it suffices that there's a constituency that you continuously have to engage in if you want those innovative solutions and approaches to how we want to deal with the sort of problems that we face today.
Awesome. My key takeaway, never underestimate the value of small beginnings. Never. Because he says, do the small things and build on it. They will become something that you couldn't even ever have imagined at the time that you even thought the idea. Priska, today is really about you. You can take 2 hours to tell me everything that's on your heart, but you take 2 minutes, okay? And tell me what values are helping you excel as a young girl in the secondary school.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone present. My name is Priska Mponsa, a public speaker, debater, and a prospective Ghanaian lawyer.
Yeah.
So I believe in shared values, and I have a number of them. But then what has kept me going over the years is teamwork and team play. For the past 2 years, I've not single-handedly written any script, any piece, any article, any debate. I do it with my team, and they are present today. Thank you very much for your support. And then if I compare the ones I did alone to the ones I did with a group, I realized the difference, and I get to know that what I did together with a group is far better than what I did alone. When you walk alone, you can go fast. When you go with a troop, you can go far, just as Ms. Muslim said. Now, for the past years, I've realized that when we come together as a group, we share ideas, we incorporate them in our lives, and then today, as we sit here trying to combat global challenges, it is imperative for us to realize that we're supposed to come together as a group, we're supposed to share ideas, and then with biracial backgrounds, we can combat global challenges better than doing it single-handedly. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. Awesome. And you're on to something great already, because you've already showed us that you do have the value of recognition, because right here, she recognized the person that has been helping her. That's one of the things that can contribute to global peace. Attribution. People want to be valued. People want to be recognized for their contribution. So when you don't, conflict, strife, sometimes wars, devastation, attribution, powerful. I appreciate that. And teamwork, together, each achieves more. Take that away. Together, teamwork. So now, the next question, which is 30 seconds each. We've all shared our values. Why is it important in the conversation about global peace to navigate an evolved shared values as a response to achieving peace and perhaps preventing the outbreak of strife? Anyone can take this question. Why is it important that your value, my value, what if your value contradicts my value? What if I don't appreciate your value? Is it possible that we can actually construct a society where we work with shared values to ensure progress for all of us and prevent strife? Anyone who wants to take that?
I think that all humans are born equal with different talents. And as much as you are talented in one area, another person is talented in another area. Your ability to recognize that the progress of your talent depends on how others support you. It's like a football match. And since most of you like football, you could be the Messi or Ronaldo in the team. But if the other players do not play the ball to you, you cannot score. So that is how important it is for you to recognize that even though you may have your values of life, you cannot leave it alone. You need to recognize the talents and the role other people will play in your life for you to be successful.
So who shapes global values? And I want here to avert our minds to global institutions, because often the rhetoric is that the agenda is set by these global neoliberal institutions of the United Nations who are trying to push down their neoliberal tendencies down our throats, and that these values are un-African in some instance, and that these values has not delivered the development that we want. Why is Africa still underdeveloped? The irony of it all, that we still remain the richest continent. So who should develop these global values that we should all aspire to? The AU, the UN, the other regional bodies? Prof, what do you think?
I think, as you had earlier on mentioned, it's supposed to be shared. If it's supposed to be shared, then it has to be collective, not just African, not just a small section of any institution, but the larger world community, of which the UN, in fact, stands in the best place to do that. But I would even say that perhaps educational institutions haven't done as much to actually take on that responsibility, where we can actually help students, young people, because we are fortunate. We are in a situation where we have young people at very tender ages till they are very late teens, late 20s, when they are young adults, that we have the ability to be able to help shape the values that they hold. Right. And therefore, perhaps educational institutions should be seeing a lot more responsibility that is actually entrusted upon them, not just for academic purposes, but also in the sense that we should be aiming more at helping students and young people to, first of all, acquire the skills that will enable them to actually put those shared values to work, which will benefit the rest of the world.
So, Prof, before I come to you, you are an entrepreneur, right? So we have been told often that these global values it's not contributing to a situation where we are generating as many millionaires and billionaires on the African continent. So why is it that if we are part of the global committee of nations, we are not, in terms of the reality of the shared gains, the continent is lagging behind? What haven't we gotten right in terms of how we've integrated ourselves into this global system?
Thank you. I would say that there is the need, is an urgency to inculcate entrepreneurship in our curriculum,
right,
in our schools, because you finish university and it's mainly chew and pour, pass and forget. I did my first degree here in Ghana, my master's in the UK, and my PhD in the US. And there is a vast difference. Right. And I believe that if we incorporate that and the practicality of education in our curriculum here in Ghana and in Africa, it will help us to go a long way in becoming more entrepreneurial. Yes, I have been in academia also, but I have learned different things, how to make hair bows for children, how to do bridal bouquets, and I do them fine. It's, I'll say it's a hobby, but I sell them as well, and I make money out of them. And so I believe that, and this all came about because I ended up in a class where everybody had to do something apart from our normal academic work. As an environmental scientist, we were in class, we were working on global warming. And all we said was, okay, what can we do apart from the typical science? So some people took on different challenges, and I decided, okay, I think I enjoy doing things with my hands. And I learned how to do that. And recently I made quite a lot of money out of it.
Interesting to know. So the thing that you think is a hobby might be the thing that might actually deliver you your financial breakthrough. So don't underestimate or undersell your skills. But again, I'm hearing you say that the system incites and encourages that kind of innovative thinking. Because sometimes necessity is the mother of invention. If you're giving a platform to think and become creative, you will. Perhaps that's why it's good that Ghana is changing our curricula to kind of change this dogmatic way, mindset. I'm coming to you now. Students, young people are the ones leaving their countries. Is it because they don't love their countries? Why is migration a problem for Africa? What is it about the values we are shaping in the young people that creates this perception that moving away from their country is what would give them prosperity?
Before I answer this particular one, if you permit me, I would want to again look at the value set one that you asked earlier. I think that in the context of what we're doing as global peace, yesterday when we had a discussion with Vasu, something came, it has more to do with ideology. And the fact that if you look at all movements, if you look at everything that has been achieved, whether good or bad, if you look at Hitler, if you look at all of them, it was founded on ideology.
Right.
Now, if there is no ideology, it leaves a vacuum, and people will not move just as a result of a vacuum that has been created. Now, if we're to mobilize ourselves, so you're talking about a value set to drive a global paradigm. So it's not just something that is local, but you're looking at rallying the support of everybody. Now, this has to be hinged on something that everybody can identify with. So then we need to build an ideology, and that's where the conscientizing the people to get them to identify where the ideology that we're building for global peace comes in.
Which is?
So there are four thematic, sets of things that you want. So one is when we talk about creating the values itself. So then what kind of values as people? So are we talking about, a state where we as a continent, we talk about the fact that we're the richest in terms of our natural resources, but in evidence we're the poorest by what we can show.
Right.
But what is it that accounts for why we have a situation like that? Corruption and all of them, we can list them, but we're not here to discuss those ones. So if we create that value set of the things that we believe can bind us rather than separate us, so looking out for each other, being each other's keeper, so the interest, the things that the selflessness, this is a clear example of how we can put other people ahead of
But
ourselves.
we've had these conversations over. So how different is this new paradigm that you're proposing? Because these values, these issues have been spoken about. So why are we not complying? Why are we not seeing the difference? And what intervention might tweak that?
Okay, so I would again say that what we see here today is evidence. Now, in my earlier remark, I suggested that I don't know how the Human Rights Charter came about.
Right.
But at least I'll have the benefit of knowing how the Global Peace Charter will come about. And I know that it started from conversations like this. I know that it started with people who want to say that this is how we want our future to look like. Now, when I say that I want my future to look like something, and the moment it is adopted as a charter, I know that is my voice. It is representative of not just myself, but my constituency that I follow. And so it makes more of getting an inclusiveness for the people to identify with it and then work with it. So if we're talking about it in that way, I think that will be the difference.
Right.
Of the people themselves saying that, if you ask me, for the word of me, I've always asked the Agenda 2063, how did they come by it? who sat where,
Feel
who did
disconnected.
what. The disconnect is there. So, but this is very different. This is starting from, and it's not just 100 cities, that's the minimum that will be done. So we're talking about a global effort where the voices of the people enact the agenda. So when they enact the agenda, they are in a position to implement it, and that's more of where.
And hopefully that might curb migration.
It will
Priska,
deal with the issues. Yeah.
I'm just taking the question from him. What do you want? What do young people want? What future do you want?
So I conducted a survey in church one time. Let's get practical over here. And then I asked a group of students what their greatest fear was.
Right.
And then as of now, it is very sad for us to realize that some people, and in fact most people, harbor atichophobia in them. They are scared of not being successful in life. And I asked them the contributing factors, and they tell you, currently as we live, there are fewer job prospects. They are scared of not getting jobs in the future because one person says, robots are taking up our works, what are we supposed to do? And I told her, let's create new ones. And she said, robots come and take them again. And then we all laughed about it. People are scared of not even arriving at the prerequisite conditions for making families. And then that is what they deem as fulfillment. So then, if you live a life without fulfillment, then which life are you living?
What's that prerequisite of making families, like marrying?
I asked her the number of children she wants to have. She said 1. I asked her why. She said her job might be too time-consuming to allow her to have time with her family. And then she probably might not even get to the factors that will allow her to live that comfortable life in future. And so then she doesn't even think of having a family. It's just living alone. So if we, the youth, how about this
and
fear
these are
now?
young Ghanaian
Yes.
people.
How about this fear?
That's interesting.
Yes. So I asked her, so what do you want to be done? And she said, we as a youth are idealistic. We are change-driven. We have the ideas, and so we want the government, we want NGOs, we want private and public sectors, we want academia and all other stakeholders to incorporate our idea in our current living. We want them to incorporate our ideas in formulating their
ideas.
An example is a project that we do in school. It's for the students for the advancement of global entrepreneurship, Ghana SAGE. And then we have people making laundry bags out of bottles, recycling, and making very beautiful artifacts that solve a lot of environmental problems. And then when we are done doing this artifact, we are made to battle for first runner-up or a winner on competitive grounds. And the next question is, what happens to the things we've done? Do we carry them back to our homes? But then we need organizations to pick us up. We need people to nurture us, nurture our ideas and our projects, understand what we want to do for the country, because we are the ones that will inherit the future. And whatever lives we are living now will predict the kind of future we'll inherit. So we need organizations to pick up our ideas. They shouldn't just leave us at the competitive ground where they acknowledge our efforts, applaud us, and then we go back to our homes. So we need people to pick us up, nurture us, guide us as to how to plan for the future ahead of us, and not do things that will deteriorate our future or deplete all resources that are there to facilitate a desirable future.
Right, and just one before I bring this So there's a fear for job security in the future.
Yes.
But I'm also hearing you tell us that so young people are willing to try new things by themselves.
Yes.
To be entrepreneurial, to create the opportunities themselves.
Yes.
But they need help.
They do. We do.
Honorable John Kuma, you are the government representative on this panel. What are you doing to address these concerns that students who are in school already are harboring these fears?
Yeah, it's a genuine concern, and just last week, His Excellency the Vice President launched the Students Entrepreneurship Initiative, where on every campus we are encouraging students. In fact, the NEIP is seeded with $100 million to support students, not just students, but young people in this country with innovative ideas to start up their own businesses. So don't give up, keep innovating and sharing these ideas, and the NEIP is there to support you to achieve. But just to also make some quick points about the narrative about our continent.
Right.
I always shiver when I hear that we are lacking behind in terms of development, because I have also traveled around the world and I see that we are not that behind.
We are, Honorable.
Well, it depends on what you call development. If you are
Okay.
looking at physical infrastructure, you may think Africa is behind. But if you want to look at value system and our humanity and our sense of life, we are far behind in our civilization beyond the other parts
Far
of the world.
ahead, you mean?
Yes, so, and even economically, do you know that Africa has 400 businesses with annual turnover of $1 billion? How many of you know that? Over 400 companies in Africa with annual turnover of $1 billion.
We may not even be able to understand what that means, but who owns those businesses?
Well-
Are the turnovers within the continent? Do they go away from the country? But the figures are nice.
Yes,
but when
these
we break
ones,
it down,
these ones stay here.
Okay.
And at least if you don't know anybody, you have heard about Ali Dangote. How many of us have heard about Dangote? He's an African and he has made it on the African continent. Mo Ibrahim, among others. We have so many people who are doing well. They started just like you and I with no business history, and they are making billions on the continent. So let us not begin to think that you only have to travel somewhere to make money. And let me tell you the reality of our current world.
Yeah.
Do you know that whilst Africans are struggling to enter Europe, as we speak today, check the statistics, there are more Asians and Europeans trying to come to Africa because Africa is the continent of opportunity today.
True.
How many of you know that? So we are the continent of the future. It's only the narrative we have to change. We have to begin to see what is here. And once you are able to identify the opportunities here, you will not make up your mind to travel elsewhere to make it. You can make it here, and I can assure you, if it is support that you are looking up to, the government of your country is prepared. How many of you have heard Ghana Beyond Aid? I'm happy you have heard about the vision of your country. We are prepared to build this nation by ourselves, and we can do it if we decide to do so. Thank you very much.
Ghana for Ghana. Politicians, they can sell you the idea, you will go home sleeping the day. Success has come. So the challenge is, how do we hold them accountable for the promises they make us? So we are telling you, young people, be vocal. When you go back to school, write a letter to Honorable John Kuma. Form yourself into groups. These ideas you're telling me, send the proposals to him, because he says they have money to support your initiatives, right? So do not sit back and don't take action. Take action. Consistent action. What?
Consistent action.
So from policy, we come to academia.
Please, I want to interject before we move on. Honorable spoke about we, the youth, sharing our innovative ideas. Not everyone has that platform for us to channel our ideas. We don't even in the first place know how to channel them and what to channel them in a platform. So as a mouthpiece of the youth currently, I want to ask, as much as I'm answering questions, I want to ask also, how are we supposed to channel those ideas, and to what avenues or platforms are available for us to forward our ideas to the organizations that will hold us up?
Good. So, and I'm happy most of you have access to internet. In these days, you can Google anything. So you can just go onto the internet and Google entrepreneurship support. I'm sure one of the first names you come after will be the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program. It will lead you to our office, even if you don't have our contact number. Everything is on the internet today. Use the internet wisely and access information. It's easy to find support if you want to. And we are always willing and available to support you.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Priscilla, do you want to say something again?
Yes.
1 second.
Okay. With regarding internet, as at 2016, July 1, just 28.4% of the population had access to internet, and then I'm not sure it has exceeded over 40% currently. And so what happens to the 60% that don't have access to the internet? Is it that we think they don't have, we know that people in that 60% that have ideas that they want to bring on board. So if they don't have access to the internet, which other platforms are available to them?
That's a good question.
Right. Be vocal. Be vocal. Yes, sir.
A population of about 30 million.
Is it a phone?
Yes.
We had like 60 million mobile phones in Ghana.
Right.
Exactly.
I can assure you 80% of these phones are all internet accessible. And even on your campuses, some of your friends have mobile phones.
Not in
Am
a
I lying?
No. Not in every.
It's
not
affordability,
in
right?
Not in every. No, we don't have phones in
So,
school.
this argument, I'm coming. Maybe,
Allow.
you know, in schools, some students abuse the use of phones.
True.
So I know most institutions restrict the use of mobile phones. But even when you go home to your parents, you can use your parents' mobile phone to do a lot of research. You pick the phones and you know what to do with it. If you can stay focused and be diligent, you can find the information. You can always go to your school administration to ask them to assist you on how to reach for support either at the governmental level or at other levels. So it is not only when you have the internet access to yourself that you can access. You can rely on friends, you can rely on family, and where you are serious to find the information, I assure you find it. Let me tell you, there is no continent without problems. There is no country without corruption. There is no country without its own challenges. But what I'm assuring you is that when we decide to solve our own problems, we can do it. And we are prepared to help you to develop your innovative ideas in this country.
Great. So just to wrap up this so it doesn't become like a banter, what I hear her say is that young people need the right interventions in terms of skills and access to the technology, affordable, available technology, so that they can integrate themselves within this industrial revolution. But what I also hear you say is that young people must also broaden the options they have and be willing to learn from each other and take advantage of their friends, family, whatever. But I think the onus lies greater in government to also ensure that our schools are equipped with the necessary resources to be able to give these skills to these young people. And that's a fair expectation to have from government. So if secondary school children are already harboring fear of unemployment, and we have a problem of unemployed graduates association, what is our universities doing in preparing our university students, some of whom are here today, who actually have imminent fear that they will graduate and not have jobs? And we're linking this to the thematic area of building inclusive economic growth, because that's really what we are discussing now, and bridging the gap. Professor?
It is true that for a long time, educational institutions haven't paid a lot of attention to entrepreneurship unless you took entrepreneurship as a discipline. However, the situation has changed. We in Africa have been a little slow getting there, but increasingly in most universities, every student going through the program, irrespective of the program you take, you get exposed to some amount of entrepreneurial studies. In fact, in addition to that, several universities, my own institution included, have developed incubators, which then makes access available to students who have innovative ideas to put this in practice. Now, tying that to why we are here in the first place, it's quite important in the sense that development, at the end of the day, in an environment that is chaotic, is not what anybody desires. So we, I believe, educational institutions are well equipped and have the capacity to be able to actually provide that access that a young lady here, panelist here, actually talked about. And Honorable Minister, I must mention that most students actually have YAM phones, which is technically called YAM phones, which doesn't have the internet access that you were mentioning. So, it is actually important that government perhaps makes a determined effort to actually see how it can provide access Wi-Fi. In fact, currently at my university, we are struggling to make Wi-Fi available so that for free, so that generally students can be able to access that.
And that's why I'll take you on, because the criticism has also been that our higher education institutions have not been innovative and creative enough to expand opportunities on campuses and generate their own resources. In effect, they've been lazy at best. What would you say to this?
Well, as I wouldn't say we've been lazy, but what I would say is that the idea of entrepreneurship as a core of the academic program has taken a little while to take.
Beyond entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Is how you're generally even equipping graduates, because you're not only teaching entrepreneurship, but we want that to be a cross-cutting issue. But beyond that, our institutions are not self-sustaining. You rely a lot on government subventions, and you just made an address to the government to do something. What are the institutions able to do in and of themselves to make themselves sustainable institutions?
In fact, currently in Ghana, I would say that, on the contrary, the universities have been so successful in generating internal funds to the extent that the ministry is actually contending on getting access to some of those funds. The use they are to be put to is what is being discussed. We also have a responsibility to have a fine balance between the focus on generating funds, which is a purely commercial activity, to our social responsibility of educating young minds. So therefore, there's a limit to how much we can go in generating funds, and therefore the continued dependence or government support is necessary. Otherwise, we begin to become more of a commercial
entity. So should I
entity
understand
than
your position to mean that a university that is doing quite well in generating internal funds, finding it difficult to provide Wi-Fi service for their schools, is a university that doesn't really understand the impetus in terms of how critical what that intervention is? Because if you're making money, I should think the basic thing you might want to do is to make Wi-Fi services free, Prof. I'm not putting you on the spot, but I want to understand.
Yes, I would like to respond to that. We also have a need to keep fees low, to prevent unnecessary and large increases in fees so that greater numbers of students can have access to education. So in the end, universities have a responsibility to balance these demands. I'm not saying that the effort is not being made. Right. In fact, in all universities, access to internet in the libraries is easily available. What we are working on now is making it available on campus-wide, so that wherever you are on campus, and that takes quite a bit of effort to be able to do that. But we are definitely working on that.
In 1 second, how easy is it for a poor child from a rural village from where I come from, who is brilliant but poor, how easy it is for that child to get a university education or access to your university?
Well, we would like to think that in partnership with other academic institutions, perhaps at the SHS level, now we are fortunate we are free SHS. For that reason, every other child, Ghanaian child, has the ability to be able to actually get to the point where if they do well academically, they can enter a university. Universities are increasing the number of spaces available. In my own institution, we are increasing greater amounts of space to be able to admit more and more students. We are putting a lot of resources into teaching.
On scholarships? What?
In fact, yes, scholarships, there's a limitation, but some scholarships are available. But what is important, as I said earlier on, is the need to keep fees low so that those who manage to go through the SHS system can still be able to access university education.
Dr. Betty, what would be the entrepreneur's prescription on how we might make our economies more inclusive and expanded enough to bridge the inequality gap and create sustainable jobs? Sorry. Is it okay? And please, somebody who is a timekeeper, one of the organizers, I don't know, time.
Thank you. I think that looking at our previous educational system that we had, where people did not have access not everybody had access to go to SHS, for example. A lot of people, I work in rural communities a lot. I'm a development practitioner. A lot of people don't have that opportunity. So now that that opportunity has come on board, I think we should also look at the alternative forms of education. I know the non-formal sector at the Ministry of Education has come up with this complementary basic education to provide access for those who did not have opportunity to go to school. That is from the ages of 8 to 14 or so, and they can get them back to school. But besides that, there is the need for us to have skills development centers. Not, I would say, not solely handled by the government. Private companies, entities should come in.
Hard skills or soft skills? Because that's also a challenge. We hear entrepreneurs speak about that. Our graduates don't have soft skills.
Both.
Okay.
And for looking at those that don't have the requisite educational background, I believe that if we have such centers, they can learn different things: decor, pedicure and manicure, hairdressing. I mean, yes, they are professional schools, but they have short courses. And I am looking at opening one close to where my church is.
Right.
Because I've realized that most of the people within the community lack the basic skills for them to find even the jobs that they need. So I think that I won't say it's a responsibility just for the government. The private sector needs to come in, set up such centers where people can learn within 6 months, 3 months, short courses, because if we look at the long-term ones, it also requires money. Somebody, for example, who is a house help, going through a training for 6 months will be very difficult and challenging because she has other responsibilities
at home
as a house help. So if we have short courses, and for those who have the flair for it, if somebody has a flair for decor, I believe that within 6 weeks, consistently, the person can learn and be able to do something.
So there needs to be a mind shift, because people don't value these things. So it's almost like everybody wants to, the greatest sign of success is to go through the educational system and graduate from the university. And that is perhaps why you should have a question for Honorable John Kuma. Why is it that the government has changed technical polytechnics? Because we thought that these polytechnics were to be the institutions that would create the technical manpower, that people would learn the things to do with their hands. But now they're all struggling to become degree awarding institutions. Do you have a question for Honorable John Kuma on that regard?
Yes, I do. Yes, I am educated.
Yeah.
I have a PhD. I'm a scientist. But I also developed these skills. I mean, there are certain things that I work with women, I work with youth. I believe that, well, I don't know if I should ask him that question. I think it will be appropriate for the Minister of Education.
Oh, but he's a government rep. Ask him all the government questions. He will answer. Feel free. They'll hear, they'll answer.
What are we doing?
With the answer.
Yes.
No, I haven't. What are we doing? I know we have the
Exactly.
NVTI.
Yes, but the number of years they have to school is quite, I mean, it's just like being in a tertiary kind of education. Is there a way of having these short courses, these short programs, where even someone who has been educated to the university level, but dropped out, lost the job or something, can learn short and then can find a decent employment?
Shamima,
John.
I think one key reform that I look up to in our country is a situation where if a student, now that we have basic education to start from KG to secondary school, either by the double track system or by before the person enters the tertiary, every student must be forced to learn a trade. It should be part of the curriculum after your
That was what JSS was supposed to do, right?
Well, no, yes.
Oh.
Yes, but that concept didn't work. We should have a practical experience. For instance, today that we have the double track, if the student has to sit home for 3 months, why can't we have a situation where that student chooses a vocation, like painting or masonry or whatever vocation, tailoring or dressmaking, and use that occasion to acquire that period that he sits home to acquire that skill?
Are you asking us?
No, I'm saying it's one reform. No, we are here to do collective discussion. I agree with you that we lack it. I agree with you that we lack it. And because when you travel outside Africa, especially in Germany, there is no student without a vocation. So it is not enough to read all the theories and pass your exams. Every student in this country should be allowed to have the opportunity to learn a vocation in addition to whatever program you want to do. And I think that can be introduced at the pre-university level.
Pre-university level. So what I'm going to do, I need 6 people because we want to hear your questions as well, right? So 6 of you, 3 ladies, 3 gentlemen. The fastest of you that are able to bring yourself to the front, 6, you would get to 3 ladies, 3 gentlemen if you want to ask questions. As diverse and as inclusive. Be smart, be smart, be smart. So I need only 6 for the first round. So be in a queue. Do I have more than 6? 1, 2, 3. I have more than 6. 6. Should I leave them all to ask? Yes? It's a lot, is it? So 6. It's okay. So yes. So you tell us your name, you ask your question brief, okay? And we'll come back. And before we wrap up, we'll have a conversation about the environment as well. So your name and your question.
My name is Kensama. I'm from Alpha Beta. And my question goes to everyone.
Alpha Beta, is it a junior secondary or senior secondary?
It's senior secondary.
Senior.
Yes. So it goes to everyone, especially the young people. I was thinking, as much as we are relying on the older generation to give us the opportunities and stuff, don't you think that if we take the initiative and we are more determined to go for our goal, opportunities will open up for us? That's what I think about the whole thing.
Great message. Be assertive. Take initiative. Great message.
My name is Gwenda Opukwanani from St. John's Grammar Senior High School, Achimota. And then my question is, should entrepreneur skills be practiced in only the universities? What about the primary and the JHL schools? What about the senior high schools? And then when the speaker was speaking, he said that with the double track system, when a student goes home, he or she is supposed to be forced to go to a vocational or a practical school to learn something practical. Here lies the case, most of us don't have the support for it. We don't have the funds for it. If I go home and then I don't have money to go to that school, I'll definitely have to stay home. So what are they doing about it as a government? What is their support for us who don't have the support to go to that school during that vacation?
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Yolina Kofi from St. John's Grammar School, Achimota. Please, I have 2 questions. One is about the usage of technology in our schools to broadenize the entrepreneurship program. What about our rural areas? Somewhere like Atremantin, there's no reception in that village. So what are they doing about that village to ensure that there's the needed technology to boost the entrepreneurship program? And 2, there was this case where KNUST were doing this fufu machine and it was never out, like the marketing strategy. We never heard about any fufu machine in the market. So what has happened? And the last one is, when I was in JSS, I did we were doing this course to help us back at home, practical stuff. It was BDT, I did pre-tech. But what I remember from that period is that what I used to pass that paper was chew and pour, and learning how to draw certain objects. So what have you done about that sector of education?
Right, thank you. Because we want more of you to ask questions, just ask one question, okay? Make it brief.
Good afternoon. My name is Danielle Gansa. And earlier in the discussion, we heard that most actions are based on ideologies, but we do accept that most of us here have different ideologies. So my question is, how can we merge our diverse cultural ideologies so that we will aid in global development? Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Serena Ibrahim, and I'm from Ibri Girls Senior High School.
Shina, hold your mic closer so we hear you, right?
Okay. How do we build and strengthen our economy to meet the new facing challenges of the 21st century?
How do we build the economy to meet the 21st I forgot what.
Thank you. My name is
challenges.
My name is Seth Koneduewa. I'm a youth activist, and my question goes to the head of NIP. Please, you made mention of the Ghana Beyond Aid, and from what you said, I think it's long overdue for our students to be educated much on the Beyond Aid agenda. The future that we hope for will be much driven, or the youth or the students are the beneficiaries of the Beyond Aid that we talk about or we are preaching about. But I think there is a missing link here that we should know. There's a saying that charity begins at home. We need to involve the communities or our communities in the Beyond Aid agenda. Whilst the government is working on the macro level, the communities should be engaged at the grassroots. And I think if that is done, we will be able to solve a lot of challenges that are actually facing us. And we'll be able to solve the problem of migration and the problem of inclusiveness. So I'll urge you that if we can have something, I have a proposal on Beyond Aid community outreach.
The point is made.
That will actually help communities to be able to solve challenges that are actually prevailing at the community level to alleviate them out of poverty. And I think that will be a way out. Thank you.
Peter, and I think that was the point you were also making about ideologies and how we get the citizens to imbibe and believe and exude. Because if you really understand what the ideology means beyond just mere words, you're more able to internalize it. Great point.
All right, thank you. I'm Prosper Nate, Regional Administrator for Greater Accra. Honorable, in your submission, you made mention that research shows that those from Asia and Europe wants to come to Africa. And surprisingly, they are coming. And surprisingly, we the Africans want to go there. But the question, just as Julius Malema puts it, they have developed their skills, hence they want to exploit our resources here. Are we developing our skills? You are from an outfit that deals with innovation. What's your proposal to government towards education? Then quickly to add, Madam, I would like to ask, what's the media doing, shaping the discussion? Because on the airwaves, it's either NDC or NPP. Occasionally, when this program is launched, tomorrow we'll be buzzed with global peace and we'll discuss it for a short term, then we leave it at that. What is the media doing, tracking down government on issues such as this? Thank you.
We are part of the problem. I agree. We will change for the better.
My name is Nanado Jeremy. I'm a writer and a law student. I think the problem of Africa is not about opportunities or education. Our education system has long been sick, and there's always been remedies and developments to affect the change. But our problem, in which I don't see anyone seeing, is our grading. How do we call education? The super genius elsewhere who cannot read or write, even if you give them the opportunity to read or write, they will not do excellent in that field. But they are very good in a particular field that is not gradable. You put them in school, they cannot read the maths, they cannot read the English, but they are very good in a particular field. Have we cut them off because they are not good? I don't call it academically good. The grading system does not cater for them, because if you grade them on their level, they'll be super genius, which we cannot. But yet, we circumvent their ability. So how are we looking at that, especially Prof? And it's happening in the universities. We struggle. All students are dying. You cannot even make it to Makola. No, you can't.
It's a struggle.
So what are we doing?
Right. Thank you.
And a good lawyer told me once that grades does not make a lawyer. And please, quickly.
No time. Are you going to ask another question?
It's a follow-up on this.
Briefly.
Okay. I want to advocate that these opportunities that are available, if the people from Asia are coming to Ghana to do galamsey and the rest, why don't we teach Ghanaians incorporate it in our education system, how to mine gold without exploiting it ourselves? Because even if the Chinese come, they are the ones who stand there, and our people are only doing the menial jobs over there. Why don't we incorporate all of these things for our people?
Thank you. But let's give them a round of applause. Awesome. Thank you so very much. But I think the point you were making about maybe some people are on the spectrum, some have learning disabilities, some are, disabled, because really true inclusion requires that we make provision for all kinds of people within our society. So over to you. Briefly, you can respond to any of the questions that catches your fancy. Priska wants to start.
Yes. Now, before we answer any of the questions, from the very last question and a number of them, I personally can conclude that we are gearing at restructuring the education system and then incorporating entrepreneurship, vocational skills, technical, and all that is geared towards restructuring the education system. Now, the question we must ask is, who or which people are responsible for the restructuring? And now that the awareness has fully been created, what is the current guarantee that action will be taken immediately? That is what I think we should ask, that we are restructuring the education system. Now, who or which people are responsible? What are our roles as citizens? What is the role of the government, NGOs, academia, and all other stakeholders? And then what is the guarantee that action will be taken in the shortest possible time, now that awareness has fully been created?
Anyone who wants to go?
Okay, so is it an answer to a question?
If you all the questions, that is also a question. So whichever question you want to answer, Prof. Prof, we can't hear you. Prof's mic.
I would like to add a word to what one of the questioners talked about, taking initiative. I think it's one of the important things that we have to bear in mind, or young people have to bear in mind. The world is a very competitive place, irrespective of where you are, irrespective of what your government can do for you. It's your initiative that makes the difference, irrespective of where you are. In a sense, you take your environment, what your environment offers, and make the best out of it with the initiative that you build and sustain yourself. It would be great that governments can provide the resources that are required at all times, but in almost always cases, it's not. I think not too long ago, we saw a teacher who was using chalk on a blackboard to teach kids what a computer looks like. That is the sort of initiative that you have to imbibe on your own for the environment that you find yourself in to succeed. Remember, you are competing with young people from Singapore, from the US, from India. Yes, we have shared values, but we are competitors in a sense. So wherever you find yourself, look beyond your environment and prepare yourself and take the initiative, seize the moment, as earlier on we were told, and work hard to actually make the best that you can within the environment that you find yourself in. And I can always assure you that hard work and initiative with a little bit of support always opens doors and you see yourself advance. Thank you.
Very much. I very much agree with the first question that talks about taking initiative. One of my favorite actors is in this room. I listened to him someday. He said that he was rejected several times on his auditioning. But later on, he became one of the greatest actors we have in this country. Today is the man of God who prayed for us. Please, can you wave at us? I am saying, I'm using his example to encourage somebody here that the system may not support you initially. You may feel rejected in your initial attempt, but don't give up. Believe in what you want to do and know that you are the agent of change. I can assure you, don't believe so much that there's an entity called government that is going to be a solution to your problems. You are the solution to the problems. And when you do it well, the government will actually take you and make you responsible for solving problems in the country. So you must believe in yourself. And much of the solutions rest with us. Somebody said the vocation, he doesn't have money. I'm not saying it's something that has been introduced. We are all talking and sharing ideas about how to improve our education system. I strongly believe, like our Priska has said, once we are all talking about the need for change and reforms, then we must all begin to look at when we do this. We are all responsible. If we all begin to push, somebody said the media, stop NDC, MPP, and begin to talk about changes in our curriculum. Once we all begin to talk about it, the agencies and the ministries responsible will hear us and they'll begin to act. It is not easy to change curriculum in any country. We all have to work hard to make the changes, and we can do it together. Somebody talked about the fufu machine. Please, the fufu machine is there. Unfortunately, Ghanaians don't like neat fufu. How many of you have heard about neat fufu? They say it doesn't taste as good as the one you sweat to pound. So the conservativeness of the people to changes is also a problem. So sometimes the problem is not even about innovation. It's also about how quick the population responds to changes and innovations that we are talking about. So it is not so simple. It is quite demanding when you want to bring changes in whatever you want to do. How do we build our economy to meet the 21st century? Well, we are doing our best. There is no single economy in the world that can survive alone. We interrelate globally. And the African continent has just signed the inter-country trade agreement, where now it is believed that African countries can now trade among themselves more than they do with other countries in the world. So hopefully we'll be able to do things. And then the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda. Yes, I agree with you. We have to do more in our communities to let people understand what do we mean when we say Ghana Beyond Aid. But at least I was happy at the response that most of you raised your hand, that you have heard about the vision of this country when we say Ghana Beyond Aid. Maybe what we need to do more is to translate it into simple terms. What does it mean when we say we want to develop our country beyond aid? What it means in simple terms is that we are taking our own destinies into our own hands, we are developing our own innovative solutions to our own challenges, and we will welcome any support from partners, but we are not relying on partners to develop our country. Thank you very much.
And Honorable, I must add that we are also saying that indeed and in fact, that the commanding heights of our economy must be owned, controlled, and managed by a citizen. And I think that is very important, because if we are opened, if our economy is expanding, and yet the true owners of the economy are not Ghanaians, and the real wealth does not stay within the corners of Ghana, then there's still a major problem. I think we must envision a Ghana Beyond Aid in that direction as well. Prof, you had spoken there.
Yes,
you have something small to add.
I just want to add something to what you just said. It's great if all that is good in the nation can be owned by Ghanaians. But the reality is that I don't believe that's what we need. What we need is that irrespective of where you come from, this is a shared world. What we want is investors, wherever they may come from, Ghanaian, foreign, who will serve the country's best needs. So that we are not possessive as to it's only for Ghanaians and not for everyone else. We want people, wherever they may come from, so that Dangote can succeed in the United States, so that Bill Gates can succeed in Ghana. I think that is the sort of world that we should all be looking for, which can actually respond to a world of peace where we are totally all together sharing the benefits of our world in the belief that we serve each other's interests. I think that is what...
But Prof, and I agree with you, just so people don't misunderstand where I'm coming from, but that is not the case. And it's exactly because that is not the case that is generating strife in some parts of the world, because Dangote should be able to come and operate and thrive businesses in Ghana, but Dangote's revenues must also see to the advancement of the infrastructure. That is the problem people have with many companies. They come, they invest, because of the agreements we are entering into with these companies, the repatriation clauses that allows 90%, 75% of what do you call it? Of revenues outside of the country. So people can, by all means, should invest, because we are talking about the globe, right? We are all the same, but we are saying that if you come and you mine our resources, ensure you contribute to the infrastructure of our economy. Ensure you contribute to the expansion. Do not leave behind a reserve army of unemployed young people who can one day get up and throw this country into chaos because of the insecurity and the lack of jobs. I think that is an agreement we can share the value on, Prof.
I agree with you, and I think that is also perhaps a good tie-in to why we are here. There is not going to be peace if an investor comes, plunders, and takes it all away. So perhaps the outcome of this gathering would be part of the charter that encourages investors from outside to be mindful of their contribution to wherever they succeed. And I think that is what will help us lead to that global peace that we are all looking for.
We are in concert. Please go.
I wanted to comment on the entrepreneurial skills being incorporated in the educational system,
right.
Basic educational level, I think all the way up to senior high. Yes. I think it's been tried before, but it did not work. So this current government, if we want to inculcate that in our curriculum, we have to find very innovative ways to ensure that when it's introduced, it works very well. We have situations where you go to a workshop in a school, and for example, there is no hacksaw blade. So how do you teach somebody how to cut wood, and the person is doing woodwork? So I believe that once we are looking at incorporating this into our educational system, we have to be mindful of the fact that we need the required set of equipment, we need the materials. If you are teaching somebody how to do, I always use decor because it sometimes comes quite easy. Are we ready to provide the materials for the students to be able to learn the practical aspect of it? Or we are just going to teach using chalkboard and the theoretical aspect? Also, can we have a system where this can be done for free? And then also, can we have a system where we can help people start up? I have worked in the agribusiness industry here in Ghana for at least 16 years. Getting startup funds from any financial institution is very difficult in this country. They won't even give it to you. How do we help? And I think that I'll throw the question to you.
Right. So let me have Peter make his point, and then in wrapping up.
All right, so I think that I would touch on what one of the students from Every Girls asked about. How do we bridge the several different ideologies? Of course, I mean, different people come across as having different ideologies. How are we able to have a common ground? But I think that I drift more towards the concept of a global citizen. I mean, the idea that we're interconnected and that whatever happens, I mean, people or nationalities of this, I mean, has a spillover effect on your country. And so we cannot treat, I mean, issues on standalone basis. And that's why there's a drift towards addressing issues on a global, because if you solve your problems in Ghana and it is not solved in your neighboring country, Togo, or Burkina Faso or Cote d'Ivoire, it will have a spillover in your country, and it's as good as if you didn't address it. And so the thing of when you look at an ideology and how we bridge it has to be what we're doing. Of course, I mean, if you asked every Ghanaian out there, not everybody believes that we should be governed by a democracy in that sense. Some people would prefer some other form of governance. But in the end, the prevailing ideology that we're all using is what we say as democracy. I mean, the fact that, I mean, people have rights, people have human rights, they have educational rights, they have all the forms of rights. Now, this is what has been adopted by the majority of people. And so what we're doing here, eventually not all the opinions or not everything it is that we say here may be adopted, but largely what has a cross-cutting, I mean, effect across board is what we would see as having a global dimension. So that's how, if you want to look at how we come by what is, I mean, an ideology that is cross-cutting, that's how it is like. But again, someone also asked about the means that we use to, I mean, educate people in our schools. And so there's analogy that is shared, that if you want to determine how smart, I mean, a fish is as against a monkey, you don't ask them to climb a tree. I mean, the fish is made to live in water. So the moment you take it out of its habitat and you say that the best way to know who is smart among the two of you is climb the tree, is a monkey, obviously. I mean, even a dumb monkey will still end up first, and the smartest fish won't get there. But we end up saying the fish is dumb because it can't climb that tree. But you're taking it out of its habitat and you're asking it to do something that it is not intended to do. So that's more of what sort of educational system that we've made for ourselves. Largely, I think that it addresses the colonial, I mean, means, because that is what we inherited from our colonial masters, where the sort of education was intended to serve and not intended to be independent. But the drift is obvious. I think that a lot of gains has been made in terms of incubators in the universities. Most of the universities now are introducing, I mean, incubators. And the idea is that entrepreneurship is what will drive the fourth industrial revolution. As Africa, we missed out on the first, we missed out on the second, we missed out, and we cannot miss out on the fourth. Because obviously, what will drive the fourth will create a schism where you have high end and low end, and the jobs will be drained. So you're going to have either you're highly skilled or you don't have skill sets. If you are semi or in between, largely you'll be cut out of that gap. So this is the difficulties that we have to deal with, and it is coming. It's not an either-or thing. It's not like we have a choice or we don't have a choice. It is coming. So it's either we choose as a people to prepare for the sort of skill sets and competences that we need. Now, for us, we're 10 Achimota, we're 10 Legon. Our competition in the global citizen sense will not be KNUST or UCC. Our competition is coming from Harvard, from Yale, from Stanford. We would beat these people on the global level and will compete with them. So it will not matter, or you will not be excused because you're coming from a certain background. You will not have that liberty to make an excuse. And so, yes, there is an inherent, I mean, responsibility on the government because it's a social compact that we make with the government. To the extent that we say that we'll pay taxes, we'll do all of those things, keep that money in our stead and use it to provide our security, roads, public utilities, in exchange for what we also have to bring. So that social compact, if it is breached, then it means that, I mean, there's nothing to live for. And that's why when we do this, it is to bring up the issues. Like you said, it's not that he can offer every answer, but he also can advance some of the conversations for us to look at it and then adopt what becomes a narrative that we can use. So I think that...
Awesome contributions. I think you're tired, right? So I think we should wrap up. And if you don't have... Should I give everybody 1 minute to make a quick call to action? One brief call to action. You crown it all because you're our queen. So let me start from then you crown it. Yes, Prof. Hey, Dr. Betty, please. 1 minute.
I would encourage the youth here, especially the students, that they should use their technological equipment, their phones, their iPads.
Please open your ears and listen to this one.
To learn new things. I learned how to make hair bows via YouTube. They can use it to learn new things, research, learn several things without just chatting and watching movies on the internet. Please, do your best. It's not easy in this age, but I think when you buy the credit and it's 20 cedis, make sure that at least 5 cedis goes towards learning. Thank you.
Thank you. Very awesome contribution.
I want to encourage all students, especially those of you with creative, innovative ideas, to believe in your own success story. You will face challenges. You may not even have the support that you are asking for, but believe that you will still succeed, because that's how all others all over the world have made it. And even if you don't have access to internet, it must not stop you. Wherever and however you pursue that vision, believe in yourself that you will succeed. And I want to assure you that as government, we are ready and prepared, especially those of you who want to do startups. Last year, we trained 7,000 startups in Ghana, and we funded 1,350 of them with minimum capital of 10,000 cedis and a maximum of 100,000 Ghana cedis, just within 1 year. This year, we are likely to train about 10,000 of them. And let me tell you the good news. We returned from Bahrain 2 weeks ago from the Global Entrepreneurship Summit. In the gathering of 170 countries in Bahrain, in the global contest, a Ghanaian startup placed second in the competition.
Oh, wow.
It was actually won by a Kenyan, followed by a Ghanaian startup, before the European and Asians followed. So we are not below them. We can compete and we can beat them to it. The only difference is your confidence. And I'm here to encourage you that believe that you can do it. And when you have that belief, I believe we can together create a better world and ensure global peace. Thank you very much.
Oh, please go ahead.
Okay. My call to action on behalf of academia is actually to global peace. I would say to global peace that they should be encouraged, that the universities and other educational institutions have the capacity to incorporate peace studies and its relevance to development into the university curriculum, so that it's possible that a student that goes through an undergraduate program throughout the 4-year period would either have that as part of the various courses that they take, or as individual courses that we are capable to incorporate. We have done that with entrepreneurship when the pressure came that we had to respond. In many universities, entrepreneurship is either integrated throughout the whole program or as standalone courses, and I believe we have the capacity to do same for peace and development-related issues. And I urge you to consider what educational institutions can do to support in that direction. Thank you.
Okay, so I would want to urge everyone here, not just the young ones, we shouldn't see this as an either-or thing or an us against them kind of thing. What it is that there will have to be a lot of collaborations, a lot of partnerships. If we're to deal with the world's problems, they will not be solved standalone. or by individual countries or by individual. It cannot be solved in that way. So as we approach our dialogues, starting from here, the discussions should not end just in this room. We should be able to create, extended platforms that will still collate your views. But when we do it, let's keep an open mind. Let's not see it like an either-or thing, and us against them. It's always all of us, and the global citizen thing of all of us being affected by the same things. It just happens in different ways, but it's the same thing. So when we open our mind and tune our minds to the fact that the problems are similar, then we begin to realize that a problem solved over here is an answer over there. And then we begin to have those shared peer review sort of answers that we need. So thank you very much for listening.
We must hear here.
Ladies and gentlemen, Alan Kay makes me understand that the best way to predict the future is to invent it. We sit here today discussing the prospect of a very terrible future, and then we are discussing ways to make it desirable. We as stakeholders believe that we have outlived the time where we are supposed to create awareness about this or that. The question I want us to take home today is, after awareness, what next? And what is our role in shaping that future and giving us that desirable future? We know the future is ours to live, so let's create it, let's shape it, let's own it, and let's live it. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give our panelists a huge round of applause. Thank you so very much. I may invite you to please sit. We'll take a few photos. I'd like to invite Mama Grassa. In 2011, Mami, I was in South Africa upon the invitation of Michelle Obama. You recall when she met with young African women leaders. I was sitting right in front of the row in the church, the Regina Mundi Church, and you were there looking beautiful. And I took a photo whilst you were upstage, and here you are today. Right. So before I invite her, I also want to leave you with a message that President Barack Obama gave to us in 2010 when we went to the White House on the Young African Leadership Initiative. And it was about partnership, and we were talking about global peace, right? Because the agenda was that America was looking for new partnerships with Africa's young people. Because at 2010, many African states were hitting 50 years since independence. And America, being the country that it is, was already having conversations with the next generation of African leaders to think and hear about what we are saying and what we are envisioning Africa to be. And at the time I was like, well, none of our leaders have thought to even bring these young people together and ask us this question. In the next 50 years, what next? Because you will be the leaders and really the leaders of the country. But anyway, that's beside the point. But the question I asked him was about commitment to this partnership. And what kind of partnership is it that America was envisaging with our nations, giving various strengths? He was candid, and I want all of us to expect that same candidness from our leaders. He said on record that he is the President of the United States of America. He said on record that he has been voted by the people of America to seek at all times the interests of America. But, he added, he did not feel that Americans' needs and interests were in competition with Africa's needs, because it is important for America to be interested in disease outcomes in Africa because of the transmigration of disease. So America must be interested in malaria outcomes because Americans will come here and they might take malaria, right? America should be interested in Ebola because Ebola could become a big problem. America is interested in Africa because Africa provides a huge market for the products of Silicon Valley. So he thinks that our interests are complementary, and so he doesn't see competition. But the bottom line is that every elected leader of a sovereign country must at all times seek the interests of his nation at all times. Mama Gracia Machel, may I invite you at this time to give us the closing remarks. Let's welcome her with a round of applause.
Well, first, well done. It was really great, and we were just talking with Vaso and says this has gone beyond our expectations. It has been really very good. I don't intend to give closing remarks. I think after these brilliant closing remarks, don't you think that anyone else would just spoil, isn't it? But I have a proposal. The reason why I thought I should speak, we initiated a process of dialogue, which is intergenerational, but it's also intersectoral. At a certain point, the panelists were debating among themselves, which is good, but it shows something. It shows that there are perhaps not many opportunities which this intersectorial dialogue to serve better the public, perhaps it's something you can think of. And if you need our colleagues and partners for global peace to facilitate that, I think it would be an important thing to do, because it would be a pity after such rich debates, it ends here in one morning and nothing else happens. And that's my second point, is that perhaps you need to organize as a follow-up to this global peace intergenerational dialogue, a Ghanaian intergenerational dialogue. Because unfortunately, we didn't have much time to listen to the young people. And I think it's extremely important. Just listen to the kind of question they have asked. And then we heard here, which was very interesting. Government said, you know, we have millions of dollars to support entrepreneurship. And then went, but how are we going to access to this? And government said, oh, it is in internet. It's just for you to seek and you can get access to information. And then it was a young person who came also and said, internet? Well, but there are millions of young people out there who do not even have, or if they have a cell phone, it's that cell phone which allows you just to communicate. But you can't use this to get access to this kind of information. And it's them who told us, right? And we adults, I know it's not only here. We think and we provide, platforms for things to happen. But the how and how big or how well we reach the constituencies which we have in mind, sometimes that detail of the how we do not have. And it's people themselves who are going to tell us the best thing. So we learned something. In my view, is that government, don't expect only to put it on internet and say people will access. Please go to them. Because there are many others who will not have internet. This is one. The second is, many times what I read and I try to understand will not so complete. We are still oral societies. It's important to sit down with young people in technicon, in schools, etc., to present, to say, you know what, I just came to present one of the innovative programs which the government has put out there, which is this. This is the way you can ask it and listen to them. You'll be surprised how they're going to help you to implement better, and particularly to scale up implementation. Scale up implementation. So I'm saying this as a grandmother, an African grandmother who have been in many countries, and I know how many times we have excellent initiatives, but we fail in implementation precisely because we are not very close to the very people we intended to serve. So that was very clear to me during this discussion. I think also we are learning as a global peace that, you know, we have kicked off this process, but perhaps we should suggest that each country which is going to be blessed to have this initiative, it helps us to get the information we need to develop the charter we are talking about, but it helps those countries to kick off their internal process of dialogue. Because I think there's much, much more which can come out, which can help, and perhaps if it's something which I would also extremely recommend is when young people say we need to, the government has to review, and there's a debate of reviewing the education system, for instance, make sure that this is with the Ministry of Basic Education. I don't know how the government is structured here, but it's a basic education. It is with the technical institutions, it is with universities, all together, because this is the pillar of transformation of our nations. And if it's well done, it can propel us exactly to the 21st century we are talking about. But without really revisiting the systems of education which we are providing to our young generations, we'll continue to lag behind. We'll continue to lag behind. So it's not an issue of coming here to say it's a wrap-up. It's impossible to wrap up a very rich dialogue like this one. I will step down saying, please think together of a process where you kick off this dialogue with the stakeholders. You are going to define who they are, these ones and plus. And we also contribute to open this space where young people interact with the different generations which are sitting here. So thank you so much. You gave us much more we had expected, and I'm hoping to hear in future how the internal dialogue is going to roll out. Thank you.